she made it out, I'll tell you what happened. Uh-oh, went too far. Okay. So, at that point, she was that very night, had her first experience with having sex with one of the men that he watched the people that bought dances for her in the club, and told her that night to meet him in his car, where he forced her to get in the back seat of his car and take care of his friend. And that began her 8 months of being trafficked. Now, she was lucky because some girl went to the police and gave them Rachel's number, and she called them, or they called her, and she turned state's evidence and participated in a sting operation, and then had to get out of Dodge really quickly. So she called her parents up and told them to meet her at LAX. She says that her mother said, "You better not be pregnant." But when she got there, she did, kind of tell them what happened, and she planned on committing suicide that night. But she makes a joke and says that thank God she's not a morning person, because her parents got her up early that morning and fixed her breakfast and told her that there was nothing that they didn't know what had happened, and she lied and told them that he never hit her, and that no matter what had happened, there was nothing that she could ever do that would keep them from loving her. But so many of these girls don't have that. But I really wanted to show you Rachel because she doesn't fit the profile. And there's so many girls out there that don't fit the profile, except that they're young and they're vulnerable. So what's a mama to do? So I want to talk about the do's and don'ts for real talk. So how do you talk to your child about this? Because, I don't know, teenagers, I think they know everything, right? So it's kind of hard to have a conversation with them about this, and you don't know how they're going to take it. And so you don't want to frighten them, but you kind of want to frighten them. So it's good to have a conversation and not a confrontation. So just talk to them, but don't confront them with it. And especially if your reason for having the talk is because you have some concerns. Because the worst thing that you can do is confront them and then push them out the door. So you kind of just take it easy. Don't make it a big deal. Don't be like, tonight when you come home, we're going to talk, young lady. Because she might not, I didn't want to come home when those things were happening in my house. So you fit it into daily conversations. On the way from school, not to school, on the way to get a loaf of bread, just kind of easy breezy. And use it as a bonding, mother-daughter time. Go have a facial, go have a massage, go get your toes done, something like that. So express your concerns, educate, but don't instill unrealistic fears. The fears that are out there that they should have are frightening enough, but don't go overboard with it. Speak the truth in love, because the tone of voice is very important when you're talking to your teens. So don't, again, come across as confrontational or come across as mothery, I hate to say. But be patient, because most times they're either going to flip the script on you, change the subject, or not want to talk, or, "Oh, Mom, that's so old-fashioned, nobody does that, ew," or something like that. So you just got to be patient and bring them around as you can. And if needed, well, I don't need to tell you all this part, seek counseling. Oops, wrong way. Okay, so I was going to show you another video, but in the interest of time, I cannot. I wasn't sure which one, so I'll put them both on there. But one of the tools that parents can use to help have this conversation with your children is meet them where they are. They love YouTube. They're always on YouTube. So when you see them on YouTube, go over there and say, "Hey, I'm going to show you something." There are PSAs on this that are pretty amazing. I found on humantraffickingsearch.org. And there's an organization called YSA out of Atlanta that has a ton of videos all over that are just PSA announcements, very short ones, but very explicit, to the point, and real. So for us as clinicians, what do we do when we have someone in our office and we already know that there's a history of this? But what I would share with you is that you might have someone in your office with this history and you just don't know it. And so how do you find out? So you seek to recognize and understand the needs, and that the population needs special attention. This is not, this is not like every client that's gonna come in. And although you check every client that is depressed, if you know that this is a history, then you have to approach it very lightly. So you adapt the intake and realize that it might not be a one-shot deal. It might take time, several interviews, and you look for the signs. You look for the signs that we talked about. You look for those purses that maybe she can't afford, or jewelry. You ask, are you in a relationship? Most of the time they'll tell you because they're proud of their 25-year-old boyfriend when they're 15. And they will tell you because they don't get it. Frontal lobe, you all know about that. So, as I mentioned, consider that they may already be in your practice. So you establish the rapport, but they have a BS meter that is off the charts because they've been out there, they've learned some game. And so you absolutely must be genuine and tread carefully. Create a safe, non-judgmental space. Now I do understand that this is what we do anyway, but sometimes don't we get busy? Mm-hmm. And we just need to get through the intake. We just need to move on to the next thing. So it's really important in these cases to take your time. These girls have low self-esteem probably going in, and by the time they would be sitting in your chair, they have been beaten down to the floor and below. So you want to recognize strengths. They have them. Number one, talk about the resilience. And never act like you understand. Because to be honest with you, you don't, I don't. And I work with this population, but I just don't understand it. Don't exercise your patience. They might not like that, but exercise patience. Read the attitude and their defenses as being in survival mode, because that's part of their resilience. That's their spirit. So don't take it from them. Let them have it. And at the proper time, become their cheerleader. Don't jump up and down, though. Wrong way. So treatment modalities. Trauma and resiliency model. So it's a strength-based treatment, and that's the best thing for working with this population. Recognize the survivor in them. So that's kind of the same as having, pointing out their resilience and their strengths and understanding that, and interacting with them with respect and empowerment. Always speaking in uplifting terms. I use the term speak up, but I don't mean speak up like that. I mean speak up in uplifting terms and uplifting language. Explore the energy of the survivor that lives inside. So you might ask them, what do you think it is inside you that allowed you to be able to sit in front of me today and tell me this story? Be careful not to re-traumatize, though. Mm-hmm. There's a thin line that we have to tread, because when we're talking about someone's trauma, we want them to talk to us about their trauma, but you want to check those SUDs, right? You want to check those subjective units of distress to make sure that we're not taking them to a place that they might not be able to go, right? And speak, again, I cannot stress this enough, that's why I must have written it so many times, speak to the hidden resilience, because some of them may not know that they are resilient, and they may come in to your office downtrodden and very low. But we can speak to that resilience that's inside them that's hidden. So I want to tell you about some resources that are available. The one in San Fernando Valley is Journey Out. Now they don't work with the children, the younger kids, but they do work with 18-year-olds and up. They also have an amazing resource catalog there, and they are on Van Nuys, right here in the Valley. The San Fernando Valley Task Force Against Human Trafficking was started by Nuri Martinez, the councilwoman, And she's a little spitfire who is really working hard, and she actually went on a run with the police officers to when they were going to arrest some girls on Sepulveda. And she became so angry because the police officers were just throwing the girls in the car and yelling at them and being really demeaning and disrespectful and horrible. And she told them right there on the scene, "What are you doing? This is somebody's baby." And so from that experience, then she began to do some research and started this task force. And it's right here in the Valley also. There's volunteer work that she offers. And there's an organization called FIAT, which is Faith Initiative to Abolish Human Trafficking. And one of the things that I love about this organization is they work with not only sex trafficking, but also labor trafficking and that sort of thing. The biggest bulk of their work is sex trafficking. And what they've done is they taught some of the women, the survivors, craft trades. And so they make beautiful things. My husband brought me some. They make paintings and they make jewelry and bags and all these things, and all of the profits goes to helping these women get back on their feet. So these are all options out there. So not in California, but well, they have members and sort of like a satellite office in California. Is the Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives, co-founded by people who are direct descendants of Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington. And their mission is to advance freedom through knowledge and strategic action. And I love this because I want to have us look at this. Definitely it's called domestic minor sex trafficking and CSEC, but it's slavery. It is modern day slavery. And so Frederick Douglass, this was his statement, and of course he was talking about the enslavement of people in servitude, black people. He says, "I expose slavery in this country because to expose it is to kill it." And so I want to leave you with that thought, because I believe that knowledge is power. And so I hope that I have given you some information that maybe you didn't know. And if you did know it, I hope it rekindled it and maybe put a fire in your belly to want to know more and to spread the word and to join me in the fight against human sex trafficking. Thank you.